which ASVAB is the test that you take if you're planning to go into the Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, National Guard, okay? On the ASVAB, you are not allowed to use a calculator, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. These is kind of the basic skills because it's just basic math. So it's asking, it's math that just requires the 4 operations of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So it says, if x equals 8, what is the value of y in the equation? What do they want you to do with the 8?
Square.
Put it where?
In
x, right? So what you're doing is calling substitution, which is exactly what we're doing in this lesson for today. You're substituting 8 in for x. So what you will have is y equals 8 squared divided by 4 minus 2. So in a moment, you can challenge yourself to try to do it without a calculator or not. And see what you would get, A, B, C, or D. All right, who got A? B? C? D? Okay, I'm going to ask again since I only got one person. All right, who got A? B? C? D? All right, I would agree with A. So, order of operations, we would square the 8 first, which is 64. (64) divided by 4. 4 goes into 64 16 times. And 16 minus 2 is 14. So the answer is indeed 14. All right, so now let's go to our pink packet. So this is our last unit. Module 8 is it. Now go to the first page because we are actually splitting. So before you all flip, go to the cover page is what I'm trying to say. On the cover page, make sure you write your name and the period. Now, this is separated into 2 sections, Part A and Part B. So we're going to do the first half. We're going to take our test on April 22nd. That's a Wednesday. And then we're going to finish the second half and take that test Tuesday, May 12th. So it's 1 chapter split in half. 2 more tests. So we have a test in 2 weeks, and then after we take our test on May 12th, we'll start getting ready for your final. Any questions about the last 2 tests? All right, so today we're focusing on evaluating, which is exactly what we did in our bill work. They give us a function, and the number in parentheses is the x value that they want us to substitute. All right, so this is my function, 3x plus 4. If it's asking you to find f of negative 2, that means that where there's an x, you're going to put in negative 2. So go ahead and do that. See what you get. Anybody get -2 for question A? All right, good. Now let's go to B. B has a different function. They added an exponent on x. And what's the number that they want us to put in for part B? 3. Good. So you're going to have 3 times, and then it's 3 squared plus 4. So go ahead and see what you get. So, Love, what did you get for part B? 31. Anybody else get 31? All right, good. Now let's do C. Now C, notice that there's an X in 2 places. So you have to put that 2 in 2 different places. There's 2 places where you're putting the 2. So it would be 3 times 2 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 1. So Amaya, what did you get for part C? 21. Anybody else get 21? All right, good. Any questions so far? Just basic evaluating. Evaluating is you get a function and we're trying to evaluate what is y at different points for x. Okay, so now for the next one, we're going to use the same function 3 times. All right, and we're going to evaluate it at 3 different points in the domain. First, we're going to evaluate it at x equals 0. Then we're going to evaluate it at x equals 2. And then also at x equals -1. So let's go ahead and do that. So x squared, 3 times 0. So take a moment. What happens when you multiply a number by 0? It's 0. So this is like, I know we are in tune with using our calculator for every question, but this is one of those questions where you really should not need to pick up a calculator, because we know that 0 squared is 0 plus 0 plus 2. And I'm sure you all can figure out what 0 plus 0 plus 2 is without a calculator, right? What is 0 plus 0 plus 2? 2. And then we're dividing that by 0 plus 1. And what's 0 plus 1? So 2 divided by 1 is 2. That is one of those questions where you can do it, I promise you. There are some questions that you don't need a calculator for. I know it's crazy, but. All right, now let's move on to question, we're still on part D, but now we're evaluating it when x is 2. So what this means is, go ahead, let's write this as an ordered pair. That means when x is 0, y is 2. So the point 0, 2, that's the point that's on the graph. There is a point on this function, 0, 2. So that would be my y-intercept. All right, now let's do for f of 2. So now we're going to substitute in a 2. So I'm just going to write it out. Okay, let's see what you get. All right, so I got 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Who got that? All right, good. So that means that there is a point at 2, 4. That is a point. All right, now let's do our last one. -1. So we are going to substitute in a -1. Now, if you are using a if you're using a calculator, you have to put parentheses around that -1 squared. This is really important since we only have 2 more tests, and I think the grades are pretty decent in this class. I will have to go back and check, but can everybody look at the board real quick? If you type this in, -1 squared, you don't get the same answer as -1 squared with the parentheses. This gives you the wrong answer. This is the right answer. So whenever you're squaring something in your calculator and it's a negative, you have to put parentheses. If you type this in your calculator, you're going to get -1. But when you put the parentheses, you get a +1. And we learned in middle school that a negative times a negative is positive. So this is wrong. So let's go ahead and when we type it in, let's see what do we get. So the top I get 1 minus 3 plus 2, which is 0. And then the bottom I also get 0. And what is 0 divided by 0? Check your calculator. It's not 0. 0 divided by 0 is not 0. What happens when you type 0 divided by 0 in the calculator?
Divided by 0 error.
Right, you get an error. You cannot, and maybe this is something you want to write, you cannot divide by 0. It's mathematically impossible to divide a number by 0. You cannot do it. If you divide by 0, we get an error, which means that it does not exist. So we write D&E. Does not exist. That's what D&E represents. So before we finish out our today's lesson, because it's pretty short, I want to talk about this a little bit more because this is a very big part of this chapter. In your calculator, I want you to divide 0 by 2. What do you get when you divide 0 by 2? You get 0. But when you flip it and try to do 2 divided by 0, that's where you get the error. So the error comes when you have 0 in the denominator. All right, I'm going to give you a few minutes to try to do the last row by yourself. We only got one more question. Go ahead and evaluate those 3. We got a new function. Evaluate it for 3 different values of x. fraction. The first one answer is a fraction or a decimal. All right, go ahead and compare your answers against what I got. And I wrote it as an ordered pair at the bottom. So for the first one, I got negative 5/3, which means that when x is 0, y is negative 5/3, so that would be my point. That's my y-intercept. For the second one, I got negative 17. And the third one I didn't even do because I knew my denominator 3 minus 3 was 0. It didn't matter what I had in the top. So I didn't even figure out what that number was on top. If I have a 0 at the bottom, it is undefined. Any questions? All right, so everybody look at homework 1, module 8, homework 1. Couple of things. If you were absent yesterday, I did pass out a homework assignment. It's in the Monday slot. That is due tomorrow for full credit. And I want to emphasize, I'm not dumb. I know there's photo math, there's Socratic, there's everything that will do the work for you. If you don't show me the work, you don't get credit. And if you're doing some kind of math that I know you don't really know how to do, you don't get credit. We know in this class, we have learned how to factor using a box. So if you're trying to do some calculus to factor, you don't get credit, okay? Also, can you write that this homework that I just passed out is not due until Tuesday? So for full credit, you have to turn it in by Tuesday, April 14th. I have no idea why I pushed it so far away, but we just gonna leave it there because for some reason, that's when I thought it should be due, before spring break. That's the number, I don't know. So we'll leave it there. All right, so if I were you, I would use this time to work on the homework that's due tomorrow. Now the homework that you just got today, you can only do 1, 2, and 3. That's all you can do right now. It's numbers 1, 2, and 3. You can't do anything else.